Tonight, the Liberal government says it's getting tough on vaping.
But experts say new rules won't go nearly far enough.
I think we need to leave room for proper science.
We'll look at how much of the science is already in.
Lots more from Justin Trudeau on China and national unity, plus At Issue is here.
Why Habitat for Humanity changed the terms for some would-be homeowners.
And as Britain's new parliament opens, Londoners are split over some Norwegian wood.
It upsets me a little because it is such an important gift.
We'll show you the controversy and a stunning nighttime reveal. This is The National. National unity, the oil sands, trouble with China. We confronted the Prime Minister today about Canada's big challenges, including his own government's controversial vaping policy.
Asked point blank why Ottawa's not getting tougher on the potentially dangerous products, here's what Justin Trudeau told our Vashi Capellas.
We're very worried about the reports of extremely negative impacts from vaping. We're a government that works on evidence-based decisions.
But if that's so, one could fairly ask, why approve vaping products without testing the health impacts? Now, Ottawa is looking at ways to limit vaping's appeal to young people. Christine Birak looks at why experts fear it may be too little, too late.
Restricting advertising, particularly in its impact on young people, is a significant step.
The government is proposing a ban on vape ads anywhere kids can see them. It's a step social media giants and most provinces are taking on their own. But Quebec has already done it. And doctors say it didn't work.
The regulations that have been proposed have already been in place in Quebec, for instance, for some time. And they've experienced the same rapid increase in vaping amongst young people as is being experienced all across Canada.
Health Canada released new figures today detailing that rapid increase. The number of Canadian teens who say they'd been vaping in the previous month has nearly doubled, going from 15% in the 2016-17 school year up to 29% last year. Researchers say those numbers are still rising. Experts don't understand what kind of evidence the Prime Minister is waiting for.
We've already got evidence that the number of kids that are vaping are at record highs. There's no sign that we've plateaued. And we have evidence from 100 years of trying to regulate nicotine in conventional cigarettes that job number one is to reduce uptake among kids.
Health Canada is also proposing health warning labels on nicotine vaping products, requiring companies to tell Canadians vaping has health risks and the products are addictive. But there's no mention of limiting flavors or the amount of nicotine in these pods, which is similar to a pack of cigarettes.
I think it's important that we recognize that these are products that need to be addressed in exactly the same way that we've addressed tobacco products in the past. There are lots of lessons to be learned from our experience in that regard, and unfortunately Health Canada has not yet seen fit to apply the lessons that we've learned.
This is definitely a first step, and that's certainly what the Health Minister talked about. There's a lot more information to gather.
Until that information's gathered, expect to see more and more of this. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Ottawa's role in regulating vaping was just one response from Justin Trudeau in his sit-down with Power and Politics host Vashi Capellas. The Prime Minister shared his views on everything from China to national unity after a hard-fought election.
Onlookers call the divisions in Canada a crisis, but the Prime Minister today would not.
Do you, as the leader of this country, think that national unity is at risk right now?
I do not share the assessment to the extent that others have. I think there is a level of rhetoric that is maybe not as reassuring as it could be. I think there are very real frustrations. I think there is very real anger that needs to be dealt with in Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Conservative politicians in those provinces blame the Liberals for that anger.
Listen, there is frustration here in the prairie provinces.
It will pose a very serious challenge to national unity.
Pointing to statements like this one Trudeau made in 2017.
You can't make a choice between what's good for the environment and what's good for the economy. We can't shut down the oil sands tomorrow. We need to phase them out.
Do you believe that the oil sands will be phased out?
I think we're always going to need hydrocarbons into the
you don't
future.
think
We'll
so?
just need less of them, and in different ways. And I know that that's not going to happen anytime soon.
As he deals with disunity at home, Trudeau faces a troubled relationship with China, which 1 year ago detained these two Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor.
To advance the interests of China and Canada together.
Shortly before the men were arrested, Trudeau said he was pursuing a free trade deal with China. Those plans were shelved.
Given how they've treated this country over the last year, would you ever pursue a formal free trade agreement again with China?
I think we're a long way from that. China will make its own decisions, and until there is room to find that common ground, I don't think that greater free trade with China is really something we can explore.
But you won't rule it out if the situation were to be resolved with those two Canadians?
Oh, if the situation were to be resolved with these two Canadians and we were to see significant positive motion in other ways, this might be interesting. But it's not for any time soon.
So Vashi, Trudeau obviously dealing with his first minority government. Did it give you any sense of how long he thinks it will last?
Well, I really wanted to know whether or not the Prime Minister or his party would be the ones to prompt an election, or whether that would totally be in the opposition's hands. And the question is an interesting one because of the current political context. The opposition's capacity to be able to fight an election is very much diminished because of particularly the Conservatives lately, the resignation of their leader. The Prime Minister said it's even his New Year's resolution, though, to work more collaboratively with opposition parties. However, at the same time, and I think this is key, he also says that his party is preparing for an election as we speak. They are preparing for it as soon as possible, which gives us a hint about kind of the inherent fragility of his government, be that it is a minority. Rosie?
Okay, Vashi, thanks for that and for the interview. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
The Prime Minister also talked about the future of North American trade and ratifying the newly revised NAFTA.
I'm confident it's going to pass, but we still need to make sure that it passes quickly.
The bill is passed.
Well, things did move quickly south of the border. The U.S. House voted overwhelmingly today to ratify it. It now moves to the U.S. Senate. Canada will have to wait until Parliament returns at the end of January.
Now that U.S. President Donald Trump has been impeached, Democrats and Republicans are getting ready for the next battle. That is the trial in the Senate. The outcome is considered a foregone conclusion, an acquittal. But as Paul Hunter tells us, neither side is dropping the weapons.
They're playing games.
To take Donald Trump at his word today, what happened last night had little effect on him.
Well, I don't feel like I'm being impeached because it's a hoax. It's a setup. It's a horrible thing they did.
But as countless front pages across the U.S. had it, impeached he was for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Today in Miami, evidence is fired up those who oppose Trump, now demanding he be removed from office.
We want a president who does his job.
That said, across the street, and this being today's America,
You bunch of commies.
a post-impeachment demonstration supporting the president.
You're going to get Trump in 2020, and if you're not careful, you might get Donald Trump Jr. in 2024.
All of it underlining the hardening divide in this country, a view perhaps fueled by this, an image Trump put at the top of his Twitter page today reading, "In reality, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way." Undaunted on Capitol Hill, Democrats today took a moment to breathe in the enormity of last night's rebuke of Trump.
I have a spring in my step because of the moral courage of our caucus.
Are you on the side of the people?
Not far away, another demonstration opposing Trump at the office of Mitch McConnell, the Republican senator who will run the next stage of the process, the trial of Donald Trump in the Senate, likely in January, where Republicans have enough votes to acquit the president and keep him in office. As key Republican senator and Trump ally Lindsey Graham put it,
I want this to end quickly.
Meanwhile, the two parties got together today to try to sort some of the steps leading toward the Senate trial, including whether to allow fresh witnesses. They failed to agree on anything. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
And Democrats have condemned Trump for insulting the late Michigan Congressman John Dingell. Some Republicans have called for an apology too. Last night, Trump brought up a conversation with Dingell's wife about his body lying in state in the U.S. Capitol.
John would be so thrilled. He's looking down, he'd be so thrilled. Thank you so much, sir. I said, that's okay, don't worry about it. Maybe he's looking up, I don't know.
The implication that Dingell was in hell did not sit well with his widow. Debbie Dingell, a Democrat, won her husband's seat after he retired.
It just made me sad to play politics with a man that I loved. And when you disagree, try to say it in a way that doesn't tear somebody apart.
Dingell was the longest-serving member of Congress in U.S. history.
Turning back to news in Canada now, Joshua Boyle faced 19 charges, most for allegations of confining and assaulting his wife. Today, he was found not guilty on all of them. Media widely covered the now estranged couple's captivity in Afghanistan. At trial, Boyle denied Caitlin Coleman's claims of abuse. But David Thurton shows us the judge didn't fully believe either of them.
Joshua Boyle walked out of court today a free man.
Josh and his family are very pleased with the result.
A difficult result for his estranged wife, Caitlin Coleman.
I've had a chance to speak with Miss Coleman. She's devastated.
The decision comes almost 2 years after the couple returned from Afghanistan and settled in this Ottawa apartment where Boyle made a 911 call.
911 outside.
My wife is threatening to kill herself. She was alone in the room. She's run outside. She's screaming at the top of her lungs that she's going to kill herself. And I'm really worried for her right now.
But Coleman told police a different story. Boyle was charged with 19 counts, including assault, sexual assault with a weapon, forced confinement, and misleading police. Coleman alleged Boyle forced her to engage in anal sex and used prescription drugs to make her more compliant, all in an attempt to control every aspect of her life. Coleman was the Crown's chief witness and spoke to the CBC's Fifth Estate about testifying.
Even though I knew that he was going to be in the courtroom, there's still nothing really to prepare me for having to see him and having to know he's there. Even just a glimpse of him sort of elicited like a very immediate feeling of fear and panic.
Boyle testified the sex was consensual and that Coleman herself was controlling and abusive. In today's decision, the judge found inconsistencies on both sides, saying, "I do not believe her, just as I do not believe Mr. Boyle."
Had it been a credibility contest, I think it would be a tie. They both lost.
But the burden is on the Crown to prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Boyle's lawyers say he will now try to see his children, who are now living in the U.S., with Coleman. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Sentences were handed down today in another criminal case that captured the attention of Canadians. 3 teenagers at a Toronto all-boys school had pleaded guilty to sexual assault and assault. Katie Nicholson was in court to learn their punishment.
This wasn't the sentence Kyle Fraser expected.
I feel like they got away with a lot and they didn't really learn their lesson.
The former St. Michael's student left the school after being bullied for years. He had hoped the 3 young offenders who pleaded guilty to violent sexual assaults on 2 other students at the school would face jail time. But today, a judge sentenced them to 2 years probation and imposed 9 conditions on them. Among those, 30 hours of community service and counseling for victim empathy, sexual boundaries and consent, and social media, sexting, and child pornography.
It sends a message not only to the kids, but to other people who are doing these crimes that they can get away with it, with the right lawyers and right people behind them.
Not so, says one of the teens' lawyers.
This is not about a judgment that was too lenient, as I'm sure it's being phrased right now. This is about a specific case and very specific youths and their very specific circumstances. They've shown extreme remorse.
The violence that happened within the walls of a school that promises goodness, discipline, and knowledge left a deep mark on the victims. One of the boys isn't relying on the criminal courts for answers. He's now suing St. Michael's for its failure to keep him safe.
He's doing as well as can possibly be expected in these kind of circumstances, but it's been devastating for him and his parents going through all of this.
And while he's disappointed in the judge's decision today, Kyle Fraser says other victims of bullying shouldn't be discouraged.
Don't be afraid to speak up. We have a voice, especially with how the world is changing now.
The criminal system isn't quite finished with this case just yet. A trial involving another defendant is set to get underway in March. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
More news ahead on the National, including the latest push for Scottish independence. Why its First Minister says she has an unarguable mandate for another referendum.
Plus, it's Thursday, and that means that issue from SNC-Lavalin to the race for the Conservative leadership. Lots to talk about as we head into the holidays.
And we'll take you to the scenes of competing protests in Nova Scotia over the future of a pulp mill in Pictou. That decision expected tomorrow. We're back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back. After his decisive election win last week, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson had planned for today to be about messages of unity, but instead, a renewed push for Scottish independence just exposed more of the deep divisions, which, as Renee Filipponi reports, could tear the UK apart.
From Buckingham Palace to Westminster, this time in a car, not a horse and carriage. It was a scaled-back affair for the second Queen's speech in just 9 weeks.
My government will embark on an ambitious programme of domestic reform that delivers on the people's priorities.
And this time, with an 80-member majority, Boris Johnson will be able to deliver on increased healthcare spending, a crackdown on crime, immigration reform, and most importantly, Brexit.
After the paralysis and the platitudes, the time has come for change and the time has come for action.
Boris Johnson may be hoping this spending agenda will help unite the UK, but there is a real challenge facing the union with a renewed push for Scottish independence.
Support to break away from the UK has grown ever since the Brexit referendum. Scotland voted to remain. And with the Scottish National Party landslide in the election, the party feels they have the mandate for independence.
Good morning.
Today, its leader called on Boris Johnson to give her the power to hold another referendum.
We will continue to pursue the democratic case for Scotland's right to choose. We will do so in a reasonable and considered manner.
This MP says the 2014 referendum wasn't successful because people didn't want to leave the EU. But now Scotland is being dragged out with the UK.
And we know from all of the polling and all of the evidence that support for Scottish independence goes way up beyond 50% when Brexit kicks in.
Johnson has been clear, a referendum isn't on the table.
Mr. Speaker, but I feel that the Scottish Nationalist Party should concentrate more on delivering on the domestic priorities of the people of Scotland and rather less on breaking up our United Kingdom.
But supporters of independence say they won't stop pushing, and pushback from Westminster will only strengthen the desire for independence in Scotland. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
Let's go to our national newsroom in Vancouver, where Ian is watching stories from across Canada.
And Adrian, let's begin in Nova Scotia, where pressure has intensified over the future of the northern pulp mill. Hundreds of forestry workers and protesters gathered in support of the mill. Owners say they'll shut it down if a deadline to close a treatment facility isn't extended. But opponents rallying at a First Nation near that facility urged the Premier to uphold the closure date. A decision is expected tomorrow. A Toronto police detective says it's the most callous murder that he's seen in 16 years in the homicide unit. Officials are asking for help in identifying 2 masked suspects who were wandering in the area when Jeremy Urbina was shot and killed while he was taking out the trash at his apartment complex last week.
I've probably seen everything that human beings can do to each other, but I've never seen someone actually appear to look around to actually hunt down another human being.
Investigators are describing this as an opportunistic crime, suggesting Urbina may have been chosen at random. The 22-year-old was shot from behind at least 10 times. The Supreme Court has ruled the Toronto-born sons of 2 Russian spies can keep their Canadian citizenship. Alexander and Timothy Vavilov were born in the 1990s. Their parents were arrested on spying charges 9 years ago in the United States and later deported to Russia. In 2014, Canadian officials said the parents' employment by a foreign government meant the boys were ineligible for citizenship. Today's court ruling overturns that finding. A deadly explosion in Philadelphia destroyed at least one home, and that is one of the international stories I'll have for you in 10 minutes. But now, back to Toronto.
And more news next on The National. Why beneficiaries of Habitat for Humanity's homes in Edmonton are worried they could lose them. We're back in 2 minutes.
Habitat for Humanity's mission is to help struggling families become homeowners, but dozens of Edmonton families say they were misled about the details by the charity's local chapter. As Rafi Boudjikanian tells us, many of them are afraid they could lose their homes.
I put the concrete, and my husband also walk on these parts.
Adja Barry remembers the work she put into building her Habitat for Humanity home. Her labor considered sweat equity by the charity in place of an eventual down payment on the home. She and her family moved in a year ago.
It's kind of a dream come true.
Barry doesn't own the home yet. She's still a tenant. The homeowner agreement she signed with Habitat for Humanity said she'd receive a no-interest loan to finance the purchase after living in the house for some time. But the terms have changed. Habitat says it can now only offer her a mortgage partially financed by a credit union, meaning only half the home's price would be financed at no interest.
This is so unjust.
Dozens of Edmonton Habitat tenants were recently told of the mortgage change, including this single mother of 3 kids who doesn't think she'd pass a credit check.
They told me that your numbers are very, it would be difficult for the bank to approve you.
Edmonton's chapter of Habitat for Humanity is currently helping 450 families in northern Alberta, but that high number has come at a cost.
We were borrowing at 4.5% and lending out at 0%, which anyone will tell you is not a sustainable model.
The Edmonton organization says it's nearly $28 million in debt. Donations aren't keeping up, so it needs to change its mortgage model or else.
We probably won't be here longer than 3 years.
The tenants have retained a lawyer and are filing a class action lawsuit. Unless they get a compromise from Habitat, they say they're ready to go to court to try to get the interest-free mortgages they were first promised. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Edmonton.
Next on The National, it's Thursday. You know what that means. Andrew, Chantal, and Althea join me all in the same room to talk about the Conservative leadership race and more.
Plus, look at that. A Toronto family goes next level in their annual Christmas card in our moment.
Welcome back. At least 2 people are presumed dead following an explosion in South Philadelphia today, despite attempts by firefighters to save them.
And they quite literally went into a firestorm. And, you know, they're disappointed. I've talked to them. They wish they could have made that rescue.
Fire erupted in one row house and then spread to others. At least one home collapsed. Officials say one person was seen trapped under debris, and there are unconfirmed reports of a second person inside. No word yet on the cause. At least 3 people were killed in India today as protests against a new citizenship law turned violent. You can see police beating protesters in a city where 2 people have died. Elsewhere, police used water cannon and tear gas to disperse crowds. There are temporary bans on public gatherings, and the internet has been shut down in some areas. Many people are angry because a new law granting citizenship for people fleeing religious persecution in other countries excludes Muslims. Russia's FSB, its domestic security service, says an employee is dead after a shooting at their Moscow headquarters. According to Russian media, 5 people were hurt, some seriously. The gunman reported to have been, quote, neutralized. The attack happened while Vladimir Putin was speaking at a Kremlin event celebrating the work of the security service. A motive hasn't been reported. Let's go back to Rosemary now and the At Issue panel.
Obviously, as we look back over the past year in this issue, there are things we could have, should have, would have done differently had we known. Had we known all sorts of different aspects of it. But you don't get do-overs in politics. You only, do the best you can to protect jobs, to respect the independence of the judiciary.
It sort of looks like we are ending 2019 the way we started it, talking about the SNC-Lavalin controversy. That was the Prime Minister reacting to news of the plea deal in a Canadian press interview. The company will pay a $280 million fine, but will continue to have access to public contracts. So after months and months of political turmoil, was it all worth it? At Issue here to talk about that and more. And with me in studio, Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. They're all here. Good to see you all. I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, that this happened. I didn't know that was even, I guess I didn't even know really that they were still talking. So not only were they talking, but they got to a place of agreement. And it does sort of make you wonder whether the government suffered unnecessarily because of its own cause politically. If this was just going to happen on its own, naturally, if they were going to come to this sort of agreement.
Well, we don't know when
not.
this decision was made, first of all, to come to this sort of agreement. If this deal was available before, you'd think SNC-Lavalin would have taken it. So it may be that the prosecutors changed their mind at some point. But the salient part of this is that it was a prosecutor's decision, and the issue involved with SNC-Lavalin was not whether there should be a deal, whether the prosecutors could cut a deal with them. It was who was going to decide. And the attempt by the government, unsuccessful as it was, to lean upon the Attorney General to then lean upon prosecutors to do something that the government wanted, that was at the root of that. And that remains the issue, even though they didn't succeed. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions about that.
But I guess my point was that that goes to show you that was.
Well, yeah,
I mean, that wasn't a brilliant move because there was going to be a deal anyway.
Well,
we don't know that.
Look, the whole business that if SNC-Lavalin was convicted of this very serious crime they've now admitted to, that was going to mean the end of 9,000 jobs, the company was going to
Contracts
disappear.
would be gone,
I think all that is now gone up in smoke as well.
Okay, so the issue about being banned from federal contracts and other contracts was related to the corruption charges, not the fraud charges,
which have
and those charges have all been dropped. What we lost in not having a remediation agreement, without revisiting the politics of last
Who asked who to do what?
is transparency. Because, yes, you were surprised that those talks were ongoing, and you will never know on what basis those decisions were made. A remediation agreement would have come to about the same result for SNC-Lavalin, a big fine, monitoring, and the capacity to continue, despite all of that admission of culpability, to bid for contracts. But the minister would have been forced to explain why and on what basis the agreement was offered. So we lost on that. I think the outcome is not very different than it would have been if they'd offered the company a remediation agreement, except for light being thrown in the room, rather than light we will never see in that negotiation room.
Althea?
Well, we don't know what a plea bargain would have looked like without the public kerfuffle over the DPA. I don't think prosecutors could have acted in a vacuum. They knew what political masters wanted, what the result wanted, and that is what happened. So it's hard to divorce the two. In that clip, we don't hear the Prime Minister, which to me is the most shocking thing from the whole affair, say that he had perhaps learned lessons about taking at its word what the company says and granting so much access to a private company, publicly shared, so a public interest on both sides. But when you go through the ethics commissioners, the report about just how involved this company and the board and people were, not just in the Prime Minister's office, but in the Finance Minister's office and the Treasury Board Minister's offices, and just how the tentacles of SNC-Lavalin were all throughout this government, you have to wonder, are there other businesses that have this type of access? Are there deeper lessons learned here about how you should or you should not engage businesses? that to me is still something that I feel like, hey, maybe you should have learned a lesson that goes beyond mishandling a caucus member. And I mean, I don't see eye to eye with Andrew about what is
yes,
legit
we've
about
established
the
that
GPA.
over 12 months. Yes.
But like, I think that Jody Wilson-Raybould did not want to be holding the bag. She says clearly in her call with Michael Warnick, you know, like it would be embarrassing. This would be the first time, and she'd have to explain to people in the community, in the legal community, why she was doing this, and she didn't want to.
Yeah, but that answer, with all due respect to the Prime Minister, is not terribly different than the answer he gave 6 months ago.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think his story or his reaction has changed.
No, it's not, and it's not going to change going forward. This is where he has set his flag, and he will leave it there. But yes, SNC-Lavalin had a lot of inside contacts, and they used the fact that they had jobs in the balance to get that inside contact. We should probably be thankful that we live in an era when big business no longer gives big checks to parties.
At least.
Because there was not so long ago, before those reforms that Jean Chrétien and Stephen Harper brought in, connections and inside contacts on the basis that you were a big donor.
We spent a lot of time on that file, and I'm happy to move on.
We may be talking about it.
I know, we may be talking about it all spring, but let's move on.
No, we will not be talking about it all spring. Sorry.
Because they won't come back. Let's move on to the Conservative leadership race. A few big names
we
already
will be
out
talking
there.
about that all spring.
And a lot of people considering it. Here's what I mean.
Well, I've had a lot of people sending me emails and Facebook posts and texts to encourage me to run.
I think it's far too soon to make a decision of this magnitude, and so I will obviously take the time necessary.
I'm considering it. Regardless of the role I play, though, I think we need to build a much bigger Conservative Party.
My first thought is Rona.
Oh, I thought that Tim Apple
so
was going to say he was in it too.
Lots of people thinking about it. Obviously, one big name is missing. There's two big names. Well, you heard Rona Ambrose. There's another name that's out there now, and that's Jean Charest. So let's start with Jean Charest and then move to Rona Ambrose. The Charest thing is real.
Is real. It is a serious, I call it the last political temptation of Jean Charest. By all accounts, and he has admitted, I think, today that he was thinking about it, he is tempted. People who have talked to him will tell you that he really sees this as maybe something he wants to do. Now, whether over time he will stick with that decision is another issue. It's not the party that he left behind.
No.
He was a premier in between, a Liberal premier. It looks like the former Tories trying to take over. It's complicated, and I'm not sure that he knows all the players in the way that he used to. So, question mark. But he is engaged, and Jean Charest is one thing that everyone, including his foes, agree on. He is one of the best campaigners in this country.
Yes. Having followed him for a long time, too long, extremely capable and charming. But to say he doesn't come with a lot of baggage. Yeah, I just don't. Is no one saying that to him?
Not only as Premier of Quebec, but as former party leader of the PC party.
Yeah.
Where people invested heavily in expectations and hopes of him, and he consistently fell short of. I'm not sure there's really that large a constituency for him in today's Conservative Party, and I fear he may embarrass himself if he goes into this.
I don't think we should judge him from like the actions of 30 years ago, but maybe people are not telling him about the baggage, but Conservatives that I've spoken to is like the first word they mention. He's got too much baggage. And he better not go into this race unless he's assured he's going to win, because there's no way you want that mark on your legacy.
No.
And there is no way that he can be assured to win if he enters this race. It's more complicated than that. He needs support across the country, and he will have competition. There is no coronation on offer in this case.
No. Okay, so Rona Ambrose, the other person whose name has now taken on a new level, and she also getting many calls. I wouldn't say she's considering it, but she's not considering it, if I can qualify it that way.
If you're not considering something, there are many ways to let people know, and it's been a few weeks. And
you just have to say no.
Yes. Not that hard to.
There's you're seeing this from a lot of candidates. Yes. Christy Clark, for example, not candidates, but proto-candidates, where they give every answer
really
except no.
Yeah,
it's not on my radar, non-denial denials.
But it raises their market value. Let's be clear that this is the least costly way of raising your profile.
Yeah,
to
and
say,
assessing
I'm getting lots
things.
of emails.
Yeah.
Well, gee, you know, how
Yeah.
would we know? But still, it
Or they're
raises
talking
your-
about me on at issue,
Yes.
so it must be real. Yeah.
People are building up this sort of boom around Ron Ambrose that I'm not sure where it comes from. She was the interim leader for a while. She was a cabinet minister, but she wasn't the sort of enormous figure in the party that people are now sort of seeming glomming onto her as the savior. It is encouraging, though, Jean Charest, Ron Ambrose, all these names, that people, from the party standpoint, that people who would have declined to have run or even considered it last time around are now looking at it, because the party's situation has changed, the relative standings of the parties have changed, and you have a potential of being a future prime minister. So a lot of expressions of interest coming forward.
Although I do think the French thing is, I think you're sort of dead in the water. Are you not? I
I haven't spoken to her recently, but I was not under the impression that she was still taking French lessons.
Mm-hmm.
She was taking French lessons when she was interim leader. And her French was not great. Like, she would have had a hard time in a debate.
Yeah.
She can muddle her way through a sit-down interview, but thinking on your feet in a second, or in her case, her fourth language, I think, that's difficult. She's said publicly that she thinks the next leader has to be bilingual. She also said when she left that she was looking forward to having a life in the private sector. My sense from people around her is that, she basically made a deal with her husband. She was going to do the interim leader thing, and then they were going to go off and have a nice life together. And to me, it seems like she wants to get back in the game, right? Like, she serves on the NAFTA Council. She's on TV all the time talking about her bill about judicial training. She has still her website is up, ronnaambrose.com. She likes, it seems to me like she wants to get in. And I view Jason Kenney, for example, throwing her name out there as a way of saying, hey, family, make this decision for the greater good.
They're good friends.
But we will see if, because I don't think it's a decision she can take on her own.
Last word.
It tells you how compelling this game must be, that people who earn a good, interesting living, like Ron Ambrose and Jean Charest, are letting their names stand, if only
they're addicted.
at this point. They are addicted.
No,
but
politicians.
But then if you're going to want this, you really need to want this, because it's not going to be, it's great to win the leadership, but then you have to live with all of the rest.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting.
You can never quit politics. That's really what it comes down to. You can try, but you won't.
That's why it's become this laughable cliche when a politician resigns that I'm going to spend more time with my family. If they were interested in spending more time with their family, they never would have gotten in the game.
And their family's probably over it. Okay, before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, and our website, cbcnews.ca/The National.
And next on The National, a cross-border Christmas gift gets a little side-eye on arrival. The Norwegian tree some Brits are scoffing at. Right after this. Plus,
Earlier this month, the literary phenomenon John Irving, a great American novelist, chose to become Canadian.
This is a very conscious choice. I want to live here. I love it here.
In a television exclusive, I sat down with him to find out more about his decision. That's tomorrow night on The National.
I'm Marion Warnica, in for Jamie Poisson. Tomorrow on CBC's Daily News podcast, Front Burner, victims of a Toronto mass shooting sue the gun maker Smith & Wesson over smart tech they say could have saved lives. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
the Christmas tree in London's Trafalgar Square was switched on with the usual Yuletide enthusiasm. Hundreds of people gathered for that gleeful moment when it was all lit up. But this year, the Grinches are out. Carolyn Dunn explains why Britain's most famous Christmas tree is also its most mocked.
In Trafalgar Square, the countdown to Christmas is on. The iconic Norway spruce towers 25 meters over the people who flock to see it. But this year, the oohs and ahs sound a bit more like this.
Just very sparse. It looks like half the needles are missing off it.
Bjorn Engelbertsen came from Norway to London to shop and snap some souvenir photos of the tree.
It's bad.
Why?
I know about a lot of nicer trees in Norway than this one.
It must be a bit
wild because we're coming out of the EU then or something must be happening from to send a tree like that.
In all seriousness, the Norway spruce in Trafalgar Square is steeped in history. King Haakon VII first gifted a tree to Britain in 1947 for granting him refuge from the Nazi invasion of Norway. It has been an annual gift of thanks ever since.
These kind of gap in there. That's
Daniel Phillips is a horticultural expert. He says it's exactly what you'd expect a decades-old, naturally grown Norway spruce to look like.
I think it's the best shape out of all the Christmas trees that you can buy.
Why?
A proper Christmas tree shape.
Okay.
And it's a traditional one, and it's the one I had when I was young.
The honorary mayor of Westminster couldn't agree more. This year, she was the dignitary who attended the annual felling of the tree in Norway. She figures the criticism says more about shares on social media than it does about the tree.
I can understand it because it's an unfamiliar species in this country. It upsets me a little because it is such an important gift.
It's taken a lot of people a lot of patience and trouble to get it over here and then to erect it over here and everything, and then to moan about it. I think that's silly.
Besides, when the carolers start singing familiar holiday songs and the vertical Norwegian lights twinkle in the darkness, symbolic of the peace and calm of the season, the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree looks beautiful by any standard. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, London.
It is a perfectly good tree. Next on The National, a moment you won't want to miss. An intergalactic Christmas card right after this. But first.
In case you missed it, turns out Yellowknife's cold this time of year.
You want to know how cold it is, producers? This water turns to steam. These bubbles are falling like rocks. Look at this cord.
Ah, the extreme weather beat. I know it well. From hurricanes to heat waves to bone-chilling cold, it's a TV staple. CBC North's Garrett Hinchy was assigned that short stick earlier this week during an especially brutal cold snap.
The snow hurts my ears. It's minus 41. How cold is... My phone just died.
But telling a weather story for the 100th time with grace and humor is Garrett's MO, as he displayed earlier this year during a later winter heat wave.
Well, Juanita, it's a comfy 4 degrees here in Yellowknife, but we should be seeing temperatures like this well into the week.
Okay, so heat wave can be relative in Canada. The point is, team player.
Do I look like an idiot?
No, man. At least not this week. To us, you look like a hero.
Behold the Christmas card a Toronto family sent out this year. That little squiggly thing in the right-hand corner. Can you see that? If you don't recognize it, it's called a QR code. Capture its image on your phone. It takes you to a website, in this case, to a music video shot by that family. It was a spoof on the Beastie Boys video Intergalactic. It was so good, a coworker convinced the family to post it to YouTube, and of course it went viral, so of course, it's our moment.
We were looking for a 3-person theme, and I thought, like, what better iconic trio than Beastie Boys? Something about that music video like always stood out to me as like a really amazing way to just have so much creativity, even on what seems like it's sort of low budget.
My favorite part was in the rainbow tunnel. The camera was going in a circle around us. We were making really cool poses.
Production with kids, you have to move extremely quick. We were left and back round trip in under 2 hours.
We have a lot of compliments. It's really crazy.
It's like a bit, it's definitely not in my comfort zone. Like, let's just say that.
I would beg to differ. I think it is in her comfort zone, putting the rest of us to shame. That is fantastic, and clearly she's got some editing chops.
A lot of people watching this video on YouTube, and I looked at the comments, and that could be a tricky place to navigate through. All the comments I read were so excited, people calling her Mother of the Year. One person saying, it makes me want to have kids, because having kids that young every day is like a music video.
She is a video editor, just so that people at home aren't like, wow, I could just do that on my computer. Like, you could try, but probably not. The other day I wrote a Christmas card on a Post-it note for someone at work.
Oh, that's lovely.
So, we all do things as well as we can. That is the National for this Thursday, December 19th. Good night.
Good night.